your past does not define who you are, that the positive impact you can have on your own lives and the world at large, it's infinite. And with the right supports in place, I try to instill that from a very early age with kids. And the earlier we can instill that they can have a happy life and meet successes, the more likely they're able to do that later in life. So I would want, a graduating class from college to know that they are fortunate to have the opportunity to redefine who they are, in every moment, and that they do have the tools and hopefully at that point the confidence in themselves, because that's huge. Kids, young adults, and we as functioning adults need to feel like we can accomplish what we're setting our sights on. And I would just encourage them to go for it, take calculated risks.
It's the Health in the Real World podcast. It's time to start the show with Chris Janke as your host. Here to give you everything that you need when it comes to fitness strategies. We keep it simple and easy. It's your roadmap to get healthy. You don't need equipment and you don't need a gym. Just the right strategies to get you fit and trim.
The Health in the Real World podcast is sponsored by most exercises and workouts, whether they be running, biking, elliptical, rowing machine, traditional weightlifting, or even CrossFit, do not give you a balanced workout. And when you do workouts that neglect even one area, you're out of balance, resulting in pain and injury as well. Achieve your goals with the fitness program your chiropractor would love. Visit chrisjanke.com/pod to watch the free video. Hello and welcome to Health in the Real World. I'm Chris Janke, and I'm joined today with Scott Rossignol. Scott is the author of a book, Help from the Principal's Office, about parenting children. He's also a principal, and we're gonna get some healthy tips on how we can take care of our kids and take care of ourselves in the meantime. Scott, welcome.
Thanks so much, Chris. Pleasure to be on your show, and I'm happy to hopefully be a resource for your viewers.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. Fill in any gaps about you that I missed, where you are and what your goals are and everything.
Sure, appreciate that. Well, Chris, I live in Connecticut right now. My wife and I have two elementary school age kids in grades 3 and 6. And I've been an educator for a while. I've worked with kids pretty much my whole adult life. Started off working in a psychiatric unit where kids were hospitalized for reasons of physical and emotional safety. I then went back to graduate school to become a school psychologist. I worked in elementary schools for several years and then went back for my administrative degree. I worked as a director of special education, and now I'm the principal of a small alternative elementary school for kids who need extra therapeutic support so that they can learn how to better control their emotions and exhibit safer behaviors. And so that's my professional background, Chris. But personally, I did have my own childhood struggles, and those memories remain vivid to me. And I think that kind of propelled me to go in the direction I did with my career. And publishing this book is my hope. It's my attempt to broaden my reach to try to help parents, families, and of course, kids who might be struggling a bit these days.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's kind of a theme on this show. I like to talk to people about their struggles and how they overcame them. So do you mind taking us back to that time? Like what was happening with you, and like what kinds of struggles did you go through? What sort of light bulb moments did you have? And, how did you get beyond that?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to chat about that, Chris. And, I remember in elementary school, I did well enough with academics, but it was hard for me to pay attention, very difficult for me to focus. I would sometimes get bored in class and lead to fooling around and, getting reprimanded by the teacher and getting calls home sometimes. And I just remember feeling back then, 30 plus years ago at this point, that nobody really understood me, that I wasn't trying to create problems for the adults in my lives, and that I was not trying to get in trouble. And I suppose the seed was planted back then that at some point I would want to help kids going through similar challenges, and perhaps most importantly, help adults understand what their kids are going through. Because if you have not personally been through it, it's really hard to understand what the perspective of a child, whether it's anxiety, depression, ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, all of those I go into detail in my book. And oftentimes it's a combination of a couple of those different, pieces at play. So the early feedback has been positive, which I'm really glad for, because I want to help kids as much as I can. But the first step is helping parents and teachers and other caregivers understand, I think.
Yeah. And this is one reason why I wanted to get you on the show is, health is not just like, working out and eating right. It's personal health, it's family health, it's community health. And many of the people who watch this show are either parents or maybe even grandparents. And, I have 4 kids myself, and let's just say they are of different difficulty levels for me, the parent. And, I love all my kids the same. Right. And every time my mom said that, I'm like, there's no way you can love us the same. But legitimately, like, I can't imagine my life without any of them. But, there are definite challenges that come from, one or two of them more than the other. So this book specifically is geared toward, you said, elementary school students who maybe a little bit more challenging, or maybe don't fit in like the traditional box, so to speak. Yeah, I think that's real good what you said as well about, you may be a parent who maybe you had an easy childhood, or maybe you did, you were very compliant with your parents and you saw no reason not to be, right? This is my mom, this is my dad, of course I'm going to listen to them. But like you said, there are many children who, they're not trying to be difficult, they're not trying to make your life hard, but they just have certain needs, and different ways to meet those needs. So is there like a specific situation that you can think of? I know you mentioned ADHD, you mentioned ODD, a specific, like, maybe, golden nugget that you can give us about, like, something you see a lot of, like, if you see this behavior, it might be because of that, or like, what do you see consistently as a principle that maybe a lot more parents really need to know?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up and asked that question, Chris. And as you were asking me, the first thing that came to mind is that most kids prefer negative attention to no attention. So for the child, at elementary school aged, who is perhaps acting out in class, or initiating arguments with siblings at home, behaviors along those lines, whether it's verbal or with the actions of their body, it usually means that there's some kind of emotional unmet need on their part. So kids are always seeking something, and sometimes they don't know or don't have the skills or knowledge yet to go about seeking out what they need to make them feel safe in the world through appropriate means. So that's when behaviors can start. That's when verbal lashing out can start. So oftentimes when it feels as though kids are trying to push their parents or teachers or other caregivers away, ironically, is when they need them most. So the acting out, the verbal aggression, name calling, whatever the case may be, that's a cry for help, although very, cleverly disguised at times.
Right. And like you said, they don't have the tools to be able to articulate what they need. What comes to mind is when my son was about 2, he was a biter. He would just bite all his friends when he got frustrated. What I would ask next is, like, the kids don't, have the skills, the tools that they need to be able to articulate. Sometimes as a parent, it feels like I don't have the skills to be able to figure out what they need. Is this, and I agree with you, like, obviously we want positive attention, but the kids will take negative attention over no attention. So when the waters are calm, right, when nobody's acting out, what kinds of things can we do as parents to sort of fill up our kids' buckets before the outbreak happens?
I love that terminology you use too, Chris, fill up the kid's bucket. And I do want to respond to that, and I will. I just want to also say one of the details I go into my book is that we have to cut ourselves slack as parents because, even if we have multiple children and we're not going through this for the first time, as you kind of alluded to, and I have two children myself, and they're very different.
Yeah.
So they each have their own unique personalities, strengths, and areas of challenge. And in a lot of ways, we are figuring this out as we go. So, there's no such thing that I've come across as the perfect parent with all of the answers right away to everything. So if we can cut ourselves some slack, that might take some of the pressure that we put on ourselves off. And then when the waters are still, as you put, the best thing that we can do is proactively give our kids positive attention. And, that goes a long way in the schools too. If we are able to positively, proactively, without behaviors emerging that pull us in a undesirable way, if we can, engage in conversation or play in an activity or sport that they really like, that lessens the chance of them seeking out attention in ways in which we otherwise would not see.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's well put. Very
Thanks.
good. Yeah. So, Scott, I want to give you a chance to go kind of big picture. What do you see as I want to give you a chance to do like a motivational speech. I really like this part of the podcast where, let's say, like a college graduation, they call you in to be the speaker, or maybe like a keynote speaker at a corporation. What 1 to 2 minute motivational speech would you give to them to get the most out of their lives?
Well, I would say that your past does not define who you are, that the positive impact you can have on your own lives and the world at large, it's infinite. And with the right supports in place, I try to instill that from a very early age with kids. And the earlier we can instill that they can have a happy life and meet successes, the more likely they're able to do that later in life. So I would want, a graduating class from college to know that they are fortunate to have the opportunity to redefine who they are, in every moment, and that they do have the tools and hopefully at that point the confidence in themselves, because that's huge. Kids, young adults, and we as functioning adults need to feel like we can accomplish what we're setting our sights on. And I would just encourage them to go for it, take calculated risks, take advantage of opportunities that come your way, and give it your best. And just know that not everybody passes the test on the first time, all of the time. And to just, keep the confidence up and know that you do have gifts that can benefit the world around you.
Nice. That was awesome.
You bet.
So going back to your book, Help from the Principal's Office, who is this book for? Is it for all parents? Is it just parents with specific types of children? What would you recommend? Who would you recommend pick up the book?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. The primary audience is for parents of children, perhaps between the ages of 5 and 11, give or take a year or two. And it is geared toward parents who are encountering different kinds of social, emotional, or behavioral challenges with their children. But I would say that any parent of young children can benefit from the content in the book, because at one time or another, all of our kids are going to go through some form of a struggle, and we hope that the struggles won't persist and be continuous in their lives. So certainly parents of children within that age range, grandparents, aunts, uncles, teachers, really any adult who has an active role in educating or raising a young child, I think could benefit to gain a little bit different of a perspective that has taken me 20 years to obtain.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Scott, how do people get in touch with you? Website, social media, email, anything online?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go on Amazon, I have an author page on there with a link to my book attached. And if you type in Scott Rossignol or Help from the Principal's Office, that should pop up. On LinkedIn, same thing. If you put my name in, you'll see my profile pop up. And I do have a Facebook business page, Guiding Principle Publishing. So I would encourage your viewers, please reach out if you would like to get in contact with me, share your thoughts, ask questions. I'm happy to engage with anyone who might benefit from it.
Awesome. That's, yeah, I just want to reiterate that, you've spent 2 decades doing this, and, a parent who's very frustrated and thinking there's no way out, you've seen it, you've helped people navigate through it, and to definitely reach out to Scott. Again, help from the principal's office, Scott Rossignol. Scott, thank you so much for joining me again today on Health in the Real World.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it, Chris.
Thanks for listening.